What's going on, everyone? How are we doing today? Everyone awake? Got all the food, ice cream in you? Feeling good? All right. My name is Phil, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I really am encouraged coming to places like this to connect with friends, but more importantly, to talk about some best practices of what's working, maybe what's not. And my hope for today is that we can give you some tools, some information, so that way you can start using them and probably experimenting and working with some of your younger generational people within your church. All right. So I'll explain a little bit more about that, what I do, but looking forward towards this session. There will be a point that if you have a journal, an iPad or something, we're going to be writing down some stuff. This is going to be almost like a learning lab. So not only do I want to show you what we do with some of our younger leaders, but we're going to actually walk through that together, and so you'll have some time to be able to process, and maybe you will find this pretty beneficial. So this is a little bit about me. This is my family. My wife is Kyrie. She is a co-director with me. We serve at PLI Leadership, and that is our son, Porter. The best perspective to put is the kid likes to dance, and I figured showing a video is way cooler than just showing a picture. He's wild, loves to have a good time. We live in Nashville, Tennessee, and as I was saying before, we work with 1,000 young leaders. I'm the co-director there alongside my wife. We get the privilege and opportunity to walk alongside many young adults who are lay leaders across the United States. 1,000 Young Leaders is connected with an organization that some of you might have already heard, PLI Leadership. PLI Leadership, we are in a place where we're training and investing and multiplying missional leaders. So really cool what we get to do, and love being a part of it. So when thinking about your leaders and the people that you associate yourselves with, the question often for me is, when is usually the best time and where is the right place to start investing in some of your younger generation? So I know time is an issue for people. A lot of your younger generations, I was just sharing with some that, or I was hearing from you all, that they're getting their first jobs. They're busy, and oftentimes we don't see them in our churches. And so those are usually two questions that I'm resonating with oftentimes. But before we do anything else, let's open up our Bibles, if you have them. Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 1 through 11. This will kind of posture ourselves of where we'll be going and what we'll be sharing with you all. So I don't know if someone wouldn't mind reading that. Typically, I'm very apprehensive of using this scripture because oftentimes the one verse gets overused or misused, and I think it's better for us to understand the full context of what is happening in this particular passage. So Jeremiah 29, 1 through 11. Does anyone feel bold enough to read? Yes.
These are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem to the surviving elders of the exiles, and to the priests, the prophets, and all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had taken into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. This was after King Jeconiah and the queen mother, the eunuchs, and the officials of Judah and Jerusalem, the craftsmen and the metalworkers had departed from Jerusalem. The letter was sent by the hand of Elisah, the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to Babylon to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. It said, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them, plant gardens and eat their produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters, multiply there and not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. For thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, do not let your prophets and your diviners who are among you deceive you, and do not listen to the dreams that they dream. For it is a lie that they are prophesying to you in my name. I did not send them, declares the Lord. For thus says the Lord, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will visit you, and I will fulfill to you my promise, and bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So as we were reading through that, I know you're all very familiar with this passage. I'm sure you are, especially that last verse. But what did you notice in this particular scripture right here? Anything that sticks out that you weren't thinking about before, or just in general? What are some of the commands that you see from the Lord given to his people?
Enjoy where you're at.
Okay, enjoy where you're at. Build roots, build homes, plant gardens, live, be, have kids, seek for prosperity of the city. So, in one sense, we see God's people being addressed while they're in Babylon, hoping that one day they're going to get back to Israel. And they could just wait for better things to come, but that's going to be 70 years from now, which is, a lifetime for us right here. So, with that being said, and looking at that, and we're looking at some of these younger generations, when is the right time? Where is the right place? And the answer would be now. And so it's easy, and I don't know everyone's context, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of your stories, and we'll get into that for a little bit. But it's easy to, wait. There might be excuses to be able to move forward in that, whatever that might be with that relationship. And really, we're told to seek to prosper now. Plant roots in that city. Sure, you might have some of your younger people transitioning, whether that's into different locations, different places. But we are all in this room, and we kind of see a common factor where we are having a hard time seeing generations like millennials, Gen Z, and other future generations just not in churches, right? And so a couple things. Why I'm here today is one of the things that we get to do is we get to walk alongside young adults. And I'm not here to really necessarily talk about what we do as a program. I want to share with you all some of the things that have been working with our younger generations. Things where they have actually been able to take some ownership in things as we've been walking alongside them, so that way they're able to live out their purpose, have greater clarity in what they're doing. All right? So one thing that we've really have learned from the process of leading 1,000 young leaders with PLI right now is this. Young adult Christian leaders don't want their purpose and passions to be put in a box. Maybe you already know this, all right? Or maybe you're a younger person and you already resonate with that. They know that God has something more for them. They just don't have a place to extract it, cultivate it, and nurture it alongside a like-minded Christian community. So with that being said, that is the problem, and we're having young leaders struggle with this. So my question for you, are you creating a place within your organization, within your churches, where there's a place that they can be able to cultivate whatever that might be, extract whatever that might be, so that they can prosper in the city where they're at right now, rather than waiting to get to a better place? I mean, I remember being younger. I'm a pastor's kid, and the thought was, well, they're all going to come back when they have kids, right? When they're looking to baptize their kids, and we all know that's not necessarily the case anymore. And so we want to be able to create places where we can extract, cultivate, and nurture leaders so that they can prosper in their cities, in their contexts, alongside with their passions. So, again, I want to share with you some of the things that we've used. With 1,000 Young Leaders, we use so many different tools, but there's 4 different tools that have been really helpful for young leaders in their development. ultimately what we really want them to be able to do is to understand their context, to be strengthened with their passions, so that way they can be an active living missionary in the places that they live, work, and play. And so some of these things have been really beneficial for them, and I want to walk alongside with you all and process some of these things for your own. But the first thing that's really important as we're going throughout that process is you want to be able to listen to their story. I know that may seem easy, but in all actuality, do you know the story of your young adult leaders within your church? Do you know that? So in order to know that, and maybe you're walking alongside someone, I want to do this particular tool with you all. And this is what we like to call story through hinge moments. So you guys are familiar with Donald Miller? Okay, great storyteller. He uses this tool to be able to list their top 10 high points and top 10 hard times. Now, I'm going to pause right now, and this is where I want you to get out your journal. I want you to write some of these things down. I say 20 minutes on there. We're not going to go that long. But I want you to start identifying some of the top 10 high points of your life and also 10 of the top hard times. So go ahead, start doing that and writing that down. You can use that piece of paper on the chair. I don't mind if you scribble on that if you don't have paper as well. But why don't you start writing those things down, and we'll process through that in just a bit. If you're halfway there, that's totally cool. Keep writing those things down. I don't want to stay in this space too long. I do want to move on to the next part. So with those hard times and those high points, what I want you to do next, what happened? Is I want you to be able to weight these hinge moments in your life. So for instance, I'm going to give you some examples of my story. All right. When I was in high school, I had several addictions. I guess you could say I was in the wrong crowd, wrong place. I was a PK. I don't know if there's any PKs in here. I was your typical PK, all right? So any stereotype that you might think of, that was me. That was a hard point in my life. And so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to list that. And that was, I'm going to put between 1 and 10, either positive or negative. I'm going to list that right there. And I'm going to put that as a -8 hard point in my life. All right? The next part, because my dad was more than just a pastor. He was a father. He was a person that cared about me. There's a moment that he was able to take me along his side. We had some beautiful discipling moments. He listened to all the struggles that I had. At that point, he turned it into, how about we get breakfast twice a week, early in the morning, and we're just going to talk about these things. So my relationship with my dad increased. So that was like a core memory that I've had. That is +6. All right. Now, later on in college, I found out that my cousin came out and he said he is gay. And it wasn't the fact that he came out and he was gay. It was the point that I learned that my family dynamics, because we were all very involved with the church, no one wanted to talk about it. Instead, we didn't even address the issue that he identified being gay. So it was a hard moment in my life because I realized within my family structure and within my context that no one liked to talk about hard things. It shaped me for who I am. All right. Now I can keep going on and on. You know, better say this right now. Kyrie, marriage +10. Right. You better put that there. But what I want you to do right now is to take some of these high points, hard times, and I want you to list them out. Do only 10 of them at most, and I want you to weight those, all right? So write those down, and then we're going to talk about those things, and we're going to process through your particular hinge moment. So go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, what we're trying to do is better understand people's story, understand their context, where they came from. Oftentimes there's just so much fluff on the Sunday mornings when we're with people. It's the hi, how are you? And we don't even actually get to know their actual story. So what are those things for you? We want to bless you right now. Hard times, high points. I'm sorry that didn't come with any like cool music in the background for you to like meditate on, so my bad. Becker, I know you're thinking about all those audio stuff.
I was thinking if I had something for you.
Right. Why don't you take 3 more minutes? I know we're going quick. It normally doesn't go this quick. We only have so much time. Take 30 more seconds. All right, as I mentioned before, this is best practices, and I want to break this silence. And the best part about best practices is getting to know the people around you. So if you feel comfortable, and maybe you put something really personal, and maybe you didn't, maybe you want to be general with it, why don't you share your Lifeline tool hinge moments with a person next to you? All right, and talk about some of these hinge moments, why you weighted it to be where it's at, so that way that person may better understand your story. You might be sitting next to someone who you know, so I'd encourage, if you can find someone who you don't know, that also might be helpful as well. So, all right, find someone, introduce yourself to them, and share those things. How you doing, dude? I was just talking about you the other day. Yeah, with someone else. I was in St. Louis. Darcy. Cassiano. Not anymore, Teasdale. Yeah, it was good. 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 What's that? Yeah, Zach, Teasdale. Yep.
You guys were in college together?
Yeah, he's my roommate. Yeah. I was actually at Concordia Kirkwood and Webster Gardens, and I was doing some stuff with 1,000 Young Leaders. So, and then obviously, I was with some of your former youth who are now adults. So, full circle, right? It was good. It was really good. No. Anyone I talk to, and I'm being serious, I would tell you different. Like, just high regard. They love you, man. So you made an impact. So that's saying something. We know. Yep. Take 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. 30 seconds. All right. Let's wrap it up. What I would love to be able to hear, there you go. I would love to be able to hear some of your key takeaways from learning that person's story. What are some of your takeaways so far just using this tool? Thoughts? Yep. Balanced.
You don't have somebody just giving you the highs and kind of glossing over the lows because they're uncomfortable to share.
Yep. Love that. Yes.
Really just like it exposes you in the process too.
Yeah.
I could just imagine doing this with a group and just they get to see some part of you and you get to see a part of them back.
Totally.
Yeah.
If we get nothing else, Phil, this was solid.
This is it. This is Donald Miller. I take no credit. It's just a tool that we use. But again, you learn someone's story, and not just someone who's a younger generation, but it can be used for anyone, as you're seeing. Anything else? Yeah.
Obviously, the immediate connections, and it's like, oh, that similar thing or that kind of thing, and it is helpful as you're sharing with each other.
Yep.
But also, it's kind of cool that we both had a connection of one of the harder times came about maybe some higher points, how one came out of the other.
Yep.
You know, which is kind of a cool God thing, right?
Yeah. And sometimes those God things, we really recognize those God things in those hard points too. We recognize His hand through that process, what it can lead to, and it's a core memory that you might have. So, anything else? Yeah.
So that, both lists, they showed up on some of these things.
Yep.
But our sense was potentially for those people of faith, that's the reality. For those of the younger generations that have no faith foundation whatsoever,
Yep.
We had a process as a person of faith to work through the hard times, right?
Yep.
And ultimately maybe moved it to a positive
Yep.
light. But this process can help them to understand or be an opportunity to help them discover that there is a way to release these things rather than remain in just a hard time.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes we don't really want to admit or expose what those things are, but it's kind of powerful sometimes when you put it on a piece of paper and then, all right, we're processing through that. So, anything else?
I think it may be the hard times in life that connect us more with people necessarily than the high points.
Yep.
We see how much people have gone through and suffered and struggled, and that's just a significant part of their life.
Yep. I think you could also see their values through these things as well, even through the hard times. So for instance, I shared with you when I found out that my cousin was gay. It had nothing to do with him being gay. It was the fact that the family structure could not handle the conflict. And so I know that most of you don't know who I am, but if you do know me, I'm someone that likes to address the issue right away. That moment has shaped me in who I am today. That also reveals to you a little bit about my story, whether that's something that can be positive or even a struggle at times. There's so much that can come from these elements, these things, just by sitting down, writing it on a piece of paper. Any other thoughts?
I want a question.
Yeah.
With
I knew you were going to ask me a question.
with what you're finding out.
Yep.
One of the things that when my kids who are in their late 20s, early 30s are they are, I guess, somewhat of the target audience of what you've been working with 1,000 Young Leaders.
Mm-hmm.
We always had a standing invitation that they could invite anybody over for dinner that they wanted to, and they took advantage of that.
Yep.
And what we found was where our kids were experienced in having communications back and forth with their parents. The kids that they invited
Yep.
didn't have that same structure at home because they never really sat down and had meals with their family. So
Totally.
do you find that when you're working with this age group that they are gifted or can they tell stories about their lives because maybe this might be the first time that they're really doing it?
Yeah, I think there's many ways to extract stories from people and to be able to understand and articulate that, what that might be. First of all, remember this is just a tool and you can use it for what you want, but there's also going to be other tools. The fact that you sat down with them and created this, let's call it some structure of eating at the dinner table and going around, and if it's just one fun thing or one thing that you're pressing into, was another way that you were able to identify their story. I think what we lose sometimes, especially with our younger leaders, as we want to invest in younger generations, is do we know their story? And if we don't, what is something that we can use to extract and understand so we can better walk alongside them to understand their values, their perceptions, their thoughts on the church, where they've been bruised, but also what accomplishments have they've done that you may have never known about. So I would say yes, the fact that you created that type of structure probably was shaping for those individuals because they never had that. And so whatever that might be for you all, and maybe you've already are very intuitive in doing this, there could be other tools and other means that you can use. So I would just say that's awesome. There's so many different ways. I don't know if I fully answered your question, but
Yeah, I mean, it was mind-boggling that these kids would say things like, "I wish we had this discussion at home."
yep.
And so with that, I was just trying to figure out if maybe that could create kind of a hesitancy because they've never, other than, like this,
Sure.
shared who they are.
And what we're hearing from our young adults is, I wish we would have something like this within our local church, that we're investing in this way. So I think the purpose of that is, whatever that might be, that's what we're looking at. So let's go on to the next thing, and we'll have some more time for Q&A. But we talked about the story element. The next part that we've really seen a lot of breakthrough with what we're seeing, and maybe you're seeing this too, is to be able to understand their context. Okay? So we use a tool for this, but before we actually go into this tool, I'm going to need a reader from Luke 10, verses 1 through 9. Luke 10, verses 1 through 9. If I can get someone to be bold to read that, and just go ahead and do that right now. Luke 10, verses 1 through 9.
Can I ask a question before you jump on it?
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is for people that are, do you ever run into people where they're not taking that seriously, with the stuff that...
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can get into some of that stuff. But again, my hope is that you have some tools that could better get to a better place where your leaders feel equipped so they can lead, so you're gaining more momentum within that relationship. So absolutely. Not everyone is going to be the same. We're all very unique. So Luke 10, Luke 10, verses 1 through 9. Someone read? All right.
After this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. He told them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into this harvest field. Go, I am sending you out like lambs among wolves. Do not take a purse or bag or sandals, and do not greet anyone on the road. When you enter a house, first say, 'Peace to this house.' If someone who promotes peace is there, your peace will rest on them. If not, it will return to you. Stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Do not move around from the house to house. When you enter a town and are welcomed, eat what is offered to you. Heal the sick who are there, and tell them, 'The kingdom of God has come near to you.' But when you enter a town and are not welcome, go into its streets and say,
You can stop there. We're going to go 1 through 9. That's still an important part of Scripture. No, you're good. You're good. But in verses 1 through 9, what are some things that you guys noticed? What are some things that stuck out in this particular passage?
Go 2 by 2.
2 by 2. Community with people around you. Don't be isolated. Love it. Anything else?
Go to their house and stay there. Remain there.
Remain there. Go to their house.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, just
Yep.
don't go house to house. Stay. Heal the sick there.
Yeah, where there's peace in this house, stay there. There's something to be said about that.
Don't go door to door.
Yeah, don't go to door. That evangelism model is gone, right?
At least once you find the place.
Yeah, exactly. Once you find the place, stay there. So, why we mention this particular passage is we really want young leaders, even ourselves, to be able to understand the context. All right, and a tool that we use for understanding context is identifying people of peace. You saw that peace word being used in the Scripture. All right, another tool that we have, because when we want leaders, young adults, to be able to lead, to maximize their impact within their community, within their churches and beyond, we know that they can't do it by themselves. Go 2 by 2, but then also recognize the other people of peace that you might encounter. So we typically map out who those people of peace are in their life. People of peace could be are people that like you, that resonate with you. They invite you over. You guys hang. You have a good time. They could be either Christians or non-Christians. In fact, we call the people of peace of impact the non-Christians and influence the Christians, but don't worry about that right now. But really what I want to share with you of how we use this tool. All right, there are on this board right here 8 different domains of where we see people of peace that you might interact with in your life. The first one, it would be in the home. All right, the home up top. Now, my wife and son are the people of peace in my life. His name's Porter. That we believe that we're doing something incredible together. We're part of the mission of God together. It's really cool. We have another girl that lives with us. She's one of our college students way back in the day. Her name's Sammy. She's like family to us. She lives in our home, and she's a person of peace as well. All right. The next domain would be the people in our neighborhood. All right. In my neighborhood, I live in Nashville. It is it's Music City. About 80% of the people on my street are all involved in the music industry. It's really cool. I'm not. I have nothing to contribute, but that's okay. All right. But there are people of peace on my street, believe it or not, that we've gathered together with. One of the cool things that we get to do is we host block parties and happy hours on a monthly basis the first month on a Friday. Get together with the neighbors, have some drinks. All right. One of those people of peace in our life is the #1 drag queen dancer in Nashville. His name is Daryl. All right. Daryl really likes being around us. He loves us. He comes to all the different happy hours. He's checking in on us. Daryl's context and maybe values and beliefs are much different than mine. But I would still say that Daryl is a person of peace because he keeps inviting me into his spaces, his places, and he's even invited me to go to a show. Haven't gone yet, but he is a person of peace. Anita is a person of peace in our neighborhood. She's a single mom. 2 kids. She's been on the street for 14 years. There's been a lot of men that have come in and out of her home. And now she's at a place where she's in a better place. She likes hanging out with us. She invites Porter, our son, into her home, and she, the same as well. We'll have them in her home. She's a person of peace. We have another neighbor. Her name's Amanda. She lives next door. She's a person of peace because her mom passed away on Thanksgiving, and so she has a hard time celebrating Thanksgiving, but she decided that the best way to celebrate Thanksgiving now is with friends and neighbor, and she thought it was a good thing to be able to invite me into her home for Thanksgiving. Anyways, you get the point. She loves us. She's wanting to be around us. Only 1 out of the 3 people on here are actually Christian, but they're people of peace. All right? Now, the next domain, this might be for yourself, would be maybe where your kids go to school or the local school that's in your neighborhood. My son goes to a daycare next to my work, and we hang out with Amber and Eric because their son is best friends with Porter. So they've naturally invited us over. Again, people of peace. The other domain that you might really find people of peace is where you like to play. When I was living in South Florida, before we had Porter, one of my favorite things to do was be in an adult kickball league. It's a lot of fun, all right? And from there, we gained people of peace, and we would gather together not only to play kickball, but we would fellowship together at the brewery right after the games. There was many different people of peace that came from that recreational type of fun. So if you're involved with a club or some sort of whatever that might be, those people might be your people of peace. Now we're getting to the church part. Who are the people of peace within your church? Who are those people that you feel naturally like, man, when we're together, we're unstoppable. You love one another. They'll do anything for you. If something happens, they're there for you in a heartbeat. They're going to send you a meal, whatever that might be. Who are the people of peace within your church? Social media. Right? We live on our devices, which naturally there's people that we connect with where we don't see. I haven't seen Jeremy Becker in a long time. Naturally, I keep up with him on social media because I love him and he's doing incredible things, and I really value how he loves his wife and his kids. And when I get to see him, he's a person of peace in my life. He's demonstrated something to me a while back when we were living in South Florida that was very special, and I'm going to stay connected to someone like Jeremy Becker, even though he's not my next door neighbor. All right? So who are those people in like your social media pages? How about your work? All right? Maybe work's tough sometimes, even if you work at a church. I don't know. But who are those people of peace that are in your workplace? And then lastly, the places that you're regular, the coffee shops, the restaurants that you go to, the local grocery store where they know you by name and they know exactly what items you're going to check out. And you make that eye contact with them, and maybe it's a passive relationship, but there's some sort of connection that's going there. Okay, I think you get the idea that there's these different domains where there might be people of peace in your life. What I want you to be able to do right now, we're going to take some time and map this out, and I want you to identify in these different 8 domains where the people of peace might be. In your home, number 1, in your neighborhood, at the school, where you play, your church, your social media feeds, your work, and where you like to regular. All right? Those different 8 domains. Maybe draw the circle down, list some of those people. They can be Christian or non-Christian, but go ahead and start doing that right now. This is going to help us better understand our context and who we're surrounded with. We need to be able to do life in community with other people. So go ahead, write those things down. If you have any questions, you can let me know. This is the awkward silence in the room, but here we are. You will get the opportunity to share some of those people of peace with the person you were talking with before, or someone else, if that makes sense. This tool and exercise may also help you identify the areas where you have plenty of people of peace or where there's the lack of people of peace. It's okay if you can't fill in people of peace in all the different areas. You just want to be able to take stock in that. All right, take one more minute, and then we're going to go ahead and share.
Can you one more time, just really fast go through?
Yep, I'm glad you said that, because probably like 5 other people are thinking the same thing. So in your home, where are the people of peace in your home? That could be also your immediate family. So it could be an aunt, even a crazy aunt, uncle, grandma, cousin. Who are those people in your home life that are people of peace? Who are the people in your neighborhood? Maybe it's not necessarily your street. I list my street. But let's just say the geographic location that you live. All right? What about your school? That's number 3. Where your kids go to school, or maybe the local school that's in the area that your church is supporting. Recreation, the clubs, the sport leagues that you're involved with, or where you just like to have fun. That could also be, I don't know if anyone likes to play cards. That could be something right there too. Your church, people, peace within your church. Hopefully you have a few. Social media. Then we have work. And then the places you regular, the coffee shops, the restaurants, the grocery stores that you go to, the places that you just, it could be the gym where you work out, the people that you see there. Yes?
Define again what you mean by people of peace and why you call them that. I guess you would say they're people of impact and influence. Why do you call them people of peace?
So the idea is with the scripture where we say that there be peace on this home, to stay there. Those are what Jesus was saying, hey, there's peace in this place, and these people that you are connecting with, there's someone that you want to develop that relationship more. They love you, they like you, they want to be around you. There's a mutual connection that's happening. They might bring life to you, or you might bring life to them. So there's just that connection that you know that there's something that is there. And so we say if you find that relationship or connection, you hone in on that. You stay there, you connect more with them. Why don't we just go ahead and share with some people next to you, who are your people of peace, and share some of those stories, and we'll take about 4 minutes to do that. Go ahead and do that right now. Yeah.
What's up, Don?
Yeah. Cubs fan. Nice.
Yeah.
Me too.
Chad in a green hat, and I work for Bethany International. We do disciple making movements internationally.
Oh, yeah?
Using DBS, and we have disciple making movements actually happening.
Yeah.
And I have a question about your model. I love what you're doing, and
Yeah.
you're really talking to this really well.
Yeah.
Is there a method to your madness of, I like it, how you have these ordered?
No necessarily method. It's more so a simple drawing that can be easily reproduced as people are trying to map these things out. So there's no particular reason why, well, the home is probably going to come first, but I don't think we necessarily have an idea of why we order it that way. It's just more so the visuals than anything else.
Culturally appropriate and switched according to cultures, according to which people in America, for example, identify with the work.
Yep.
They introduce themselves as work.
Yep.
So that's their first one. Or Japan.
Yep.
Their identity goes to
It's what they do.
So then you put work first.
Yep.
Then by culture, you make a model that's a culturally appropriate model according to the culture you're in. Switch it around according to culture.
Yep.
And according to whether or not they have a church here.
Yeah.
So don't just call it your religious body.
Yep.
So don't put it as a church and call it your religious location.
No, that makes sense.
Because what I'm trying to do is figure out how to reach people in Afghanistan using that model.
Yes.
Or Northwest China.
So,
or in Iran where we're working.
Which I think, to your point, this would not be a culturally appropriate model in those areas. Yeah.
We could use this concept.
Yes, totally.
And then switch it according to the culture. You get the missionary to figure out what are the locations where people would find people of peace, draw the model according to the culturally appropriate model.
Yep.
So what we can do to train our missionaries is we train people in DMM.
Okay.
And if we're doing it, our university, we exclusively only train missionaries.
That's awesome.
And our whole staff and all of our missionaries worldwide are trained in the
We should talk more after this, by the way.
So that's why I came to your thing, because I'm always interested in how people talk about it.
Okay.
So I think what we can do is we can train missionaries to draw a model like this according to their culture.
Yes, totally.
And that would be one of the training sessions that we have with the missionaries on the field, because we all met in Turkey.
Okay.
And we say, okay, draw this according to your culture, because one of the key issues, the most difficult piece of this whole puzzle is finding the first person to peace.
Yep.
And so if we culturally shift it,
Yep.
it will be a more applicable model to be able to work over.
Which, honestly, if you guys want to use something like this, go ahead and mix it around and do that. I think you're right, though. In order to be culturally sensitive, you have to be totally aware. Like, this would probably only make sense in North America or other Western countries.
It might make, like, we're also working among Somalis in South Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So, because it's a Jinnu people group that have not been reached, it's a totally, purely unreached people group, but they're in South Minneapolis.
Got it.
So what I want to do is I want to apply this to those Jinnu people in South Minneapolis who do not yet speak English.
I love that.
So what I can do is I can culturally, I may be able to say the mosque.
Yep, totally.
As the church.
Totally. So the religious institution, like you're saying.
What the religious institution is.
Yep.
Actually put the mosque there.
Yeah, sure.
Because we're working with the imam.
Yeah.
If we're working with the imam to do a discovery Bible study, which we are, and he's the guy.
That's how you get them.
With that as the person of peace is the imam.
Totally.
So most people in here may not, but you will catch that because you got, so we put the mosque as the religious center.
Okay.
It shouldn't be for everybody in here a church.
That's a good point. Well, I'll bring that up because it obviously fits for the context maybe in this room, but it's obviously not going to fit for the context of most people. And you're thinking of like high level.
Best practice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Let's go to the best practice.
Okay, let's do that then. I'll bring it up and let's bring that feedback when we talk about that.
I don't want to take over your thing.
No, please do because I mean that's good.
I'm coming to listen.
Oh no. This is what best practice is all about. It's not about me. I think that's something gold that you should be saying. So and I'll bring it up too. Oh no, that's fine. But I'll just say, hey, you have a question. There you go. No, but seriously though, I think that's brilliant because it makes sense because that's not everyone's context. It may work for everyone else's room's context in
People
it.
in here who are reaching out to, let's say, Native Americans.
Yep.
Or whatever. Where are you other local ethnic groups that you're reaching out to? Okay, like Sudanese Lost Boys?
Hispanics.
Okay, Hispanic. So what's the Hispanic? The family might be the first place.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Exactly.
So you kind of, culturally, you figure out the culture that you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Put those in the wheelhouse.
Wheelhouse.
You said it's Curtis, right?
Curtis Smith.
Awesome. No, that was good. I appreciate that. I'll bring it up. That's really good. All right, let's start wrapping it up. 30 seconds, 30 seconds. All right. Love to hear some of your key takeaways. Key takeaways. Thoughts on this tool? What did you learn?
We kind of noted that there's a lot of overlap, and there's like the ability to move a lot of people. Somebody might be over,
sector is senior pastor lives across the street, so that's his neighborhood, but also that's church and that's work, and there's overlap for people all over the place.
Which is interesting because that might be an important thing to take note of, because there could be some sort of integration process that's happening within these different domains. Maybe that's the person saying, hey, we're in these 3 or 4 different areas together. This certainly has to be a person that could be a person of peace, that we should be pressing in more life stuff together. So that's good. Yes, other thoughts?
Help kind of identify the areas that maybe aren't as filled out, and therefore it identifies a mission opportunity out there in terms of the places of recreation and etc.
Yeah, and it's an important thing to take note of. It's not necessarily the end of the world, because ultimately, if we're understanding our context, you can't be in all these different domains all at once. This is just a tool to realize, okay, these are the areas that I'm in, and this is probably where I have the most influence. But it also could be, hey, maybe I should join a club. And because guess what? I really enjoy doing water aerobics. And I should maybe do that, and I'm connecting with people. Or maybe I should join a kickball league because I enjoy playing kickball, and that's an opportunity to have fun, but then also connect with people that are not in my context. So, love that. Any other thoughts? All right, this is best practices, which means I'm not the expert. I'm very well aware of this, but there's some other thoughts that was shared with me. Curtis was sharing this, and I really love this idea, because when you look at this tool right here, this is very North American, let's call it white Anglo type of tool that can be used. And it's not a bad thing, but there's other people that don't necessarily fit all this context. So, Curtis, you mentioned below where we have the church. What else could that be, which I thought was actually brilliant?
Thanks, Bill. I'm not correcting your model. It's a really good model.
No.
Because this is really exciting for me as a person who's working in DMM, Disciple Making Movements internationally, to see the LCMS talking about this.
Yep.
One of the things that I was wondering is if this model could be used in an international context by taking a missionary and saying, okay, can you figure out what your wheel is for your culture that you're working with? Or, for example, the Minneapolis pastors that are working in Somali ministry, we wouldn't have the church as the place, we would have the mosque.
Yep.
So, for example, we're working with the imam. If we're doing discovery-based Bible studies with the imam, we would put the person of peace in the mosque. At the bottom, it would be the mosque noted there as the religious center as opposed to the church.
Yep.
So you have to kind of think of this culturally. What, in your cultural context, are the places where you might find people of peace, and then take your missionaries or your leaders and develop your own model within your cultural context as to what this wheel looks like.
So I love that. Instead of just viewing as the church, maybe religious institutions, which I'm reminded when I was in St. Louis, there was a season where we had Mormons over left and right, from the ward, missionaries, and that was just a time where they were people of peace in our life, where we grew together with them and learned, and there was some good that came from that. Yeah.
As we're talking about young people in the church, is that a different mission field? Like for example, for a millennial or Gen Z young leader, are they going to be in all of these spaces, or is that a totally different wheel that we need to?
Again, you're never going to find yourself in all these spaces. Right. These are general spaces that you could be in, so that way it's sparking your thought process of who the people of peace in your life. If I didn't say coffee shop, you might have not have thought that there could be that same barista that you've connected with, or a restaurant. So it basically kind of breaks things down, so that way you're segmenting the different areas that you might be in, and realizing that there could be deeper connection that is there. Yes?
There's two things strike me. One is, as a church worker, it is very easy to end up with a limited sphere of influence.
Totally.
And not stepping back now and then and evaluating our own lives. And are we giving even ourselves the opportunity to have these additional connection points to be the light? Second is But this is exactly what we should be discipling our own people to understand for themselves, because this to me is Christian vocation.
Yep.
That's all this is. This is me living out every day as an ambassador, a light, and a child of God. And
100%.
So figure out, how to help them to see this is your vocation you've been called to.
Exactly. It's a tool, right? It's a tool that we've seen some breakthrough with. We work with a lot of young generational people, but it's also can be used for everyone, and it can be effective. So that way we're starting identifying the people that can come alongside us, so that way we're not alone, whatever we want to be able to lead out. This next one, we're not going to really process through this much where we're going to have you write stuff down, but it's another one. So if we're understanding the context of the people, we also need to determine the places that there are peace. So if I understand the people and the places, I'm going to better figure out where I might be able to lead community, where I can focus my time to connect with more people to have gospel opportunity. So I'm going to just go through some of these things. I'm going to probably go through them fast because we are running short of time. But this is something that we use. All right, so the first question that you want to be able to ask yourself, and we've been asking leaders, is what brings out my best? All right, so the kinds of people that I know for me that bring out my best are the people that have a lot of fun energy, right? They like to have a good time. Sometimes I can get pretty serious about things, and I have those facial expressions that you think that I might be mad or whatever that might be, but I need those fun people in my life. They bring out my best, and so I'm going to write those things down, and then I have certain people within my people of peace that I know that they're those types of people that would be the people that bring out my best. And that's going to lead me to the people that I'm going to be sent with, all right? Now, I can give you these tools later on. I'm just going to go through it fast, so don't worry, all right? The next part is, to whom should I give my best? So the kinds of people that I can give the most maximum impact to, that's something that I want to be able to address as well. So I know that I'm a very apostolic evangelist type of leader. And so it makes sense, if you met my wife, she's a really good teacher and she's a great shepherd. And the thing is, I know that I can give my best when I'm with those different types of people that are different and unique from me. So Kyrie would be one of those people that I'm sent to with. All right. Now, what's the place that brings out my best? What's the place that needs my best? I'm going to go here. The kind of place. I've realized I've lived in many different places, but now living in Nashville, also being born and raised in Chicago, I'm a city person. I realize I can make a deeper impact when I'm in a city. So those are the types of, now that I know that I'm in Nashville, it makes better sense and gives me greater clarity of what to be able to do next. And then another question is, what place brings out my best? And even though I love being in a city, I need to retreat to quiet places to be able to reflect. So we have some places that we travel to that place that brings out my best. So when you're able to identify the people and the places, you're starting to figure out what that one thing might be. Now, I'm going through this really fast. Usually it takes us 3 days to get through this with people. But again, an example of another tool and the types of questions that we're asking some of our younger generations of really who they are and what God has created them to be. All right? So that's their context. It's important to be able to understand that. The next thing is we want to be able to identify their uniqueness. This is where I'm not going to go through anything specifically, but you may see things up here that really helps people better understand their personalities. We have a Myers-Briggs, a Strength Finders. I don't know if we have Enneagram fans in here, Discovery Insights. We use APEST. We use a lot of different tools, so that way they're not necessarily defined by the tool, but it gives them better clarity and understanding of who they are. So I really like the Enneagram. I told you before, I'm kind of like a business, no-nonsense guy sometimes. I'm an Enneagram 8, and if you're familiar with that, that could be a loaded thing. We can get into that another time. But like when leaders are able to understand who they are with their Myers-Briggs, with their Discovery Insights, with their APES test or StrengthsFinders, it's going to give them greater clarity to be able to process those things. You can Google any of these things and take free tests or take any of these paid tests, whatever that might be. And that could also be a helpful way that if you're connecting with a younger millennial, Gen Z person, these tools have been helpful for us, and this is what we use for our practices right now with 1,000 Young Leaders. But the best thing, and what really is helpful the most, is you got to be able to make a plan to be able to help the leadership process of your young adult Christian. All right? And for 1,000 Young Leaders, I can talk about this for a while, but we really help leaders understand their context, discern their passions, so that way they can lead community. So that way they feel empowered to be able to create gospel opportunities with their context, with their passions, combining those together. Our hope is we want some of these young adult Christians to realize that they're in a missionary world in the United States. So we want to posture them as missionaries in their workplaces, in the places that they live and where they play. And so we do that, and towards the end of our time, we make a plan with them, taking all these things, their context, their values, their passions, the people of peace, and you're able to create, we create like a missional brainstorm with this. Again, I can share this stuff with you guys later. If you want to take pictures, that's fine. But at that point, we're taking, who are your people of peace? What are your passions and hobbies? What are your strengths and gifts? What are your resources that you might have? What might be your barriers? What are your opportunities? And if you're able to, like we've been doing today, write some of these things down, it's going to give one better clarity. And then through that, we have created a missional goal for them so that they're able to lead community by the end of their time with us. So let me give you some examples of how we have some of our young leaders. And right now we have currently 180 people part of 1,000 Young Leaders. And here's some stories that I want to share with you of just some individuals that are everyday people just like you and me and how they lead. First one, this guy's name's Landon. All right, he joined 1,000 Young Leaders. He is a NASCAR driver. You can see him on TV on the weekends. He races in the Truck Series, but his main source of income, because he's not a full-time NASCAR driver, I don't know really what that means. He basically he qualifies. Is anyone NASCAR people in here? Good. Well, I'll probably butcher this, and you'll believe me anyways, all right? So I guess you qualify for a position, and if you qualify for a certain position, then the owner of the car gets money. So he does that. He basically qualifies, and when the race starts, he goes around the track twice, and he parks it, but he gets paid that way. But his main source of income during the weekday is playing video games through what's called iRacing. I'm not a video games person, but he streams his video game iRacing experience online, and he has 3,000 people a day that watch him play video games. He has sponsors and all that stuff. So when this is his context, right? He's identified his people of peace. So now the question is, Landon, how do you create gospel opportunity while streaming on Twitch, racing your car on the video game? And so what he's done is he created spaces and opportunities for people where he's expressed his faith on the stream, and he's created Zoom rooms for people to join in the conversation if they want to go into a deeper place. That is what we're calling kingdom innovation and sending people to be missionaries today. Am I right? And so if we start identifying these simple things, these passions, these joys, these young leaders don't become just your glorified volunteers, but they're making a kingdom impact to extend the reach of your church. All right? So that's one thing that Landon has done. This is Cammie. She joined 1,000 Young Leaders. I learned when I met Cammie, because I was speaking at one of the churches up there, that she's one of the lead athletic trainers for the Green Bay Packers. I'm a Bears fan, all right? And because of HIPAA, she couldn't tell me that she does a lot of work with a certain quarterback that beats up on my team every year. But anyways, she was able to really understand how she can incorporate in the workplace, working with the Green Bay Packers, of how to create community, how to cultivate community. And so that was part of some of her simple things. This is Ryan and Lauren. They're a couple. Ryan joined 1,000 Young Leaders, and he basically told me, I don't know what I'm going to be doing with my life. It's like, great, I'm glad you're here, right? But anyways, through learning his story, a couple things. He loves making pizzas. Like, that's his favorite thing to do. And he loved volunteering at the homeless shelter. Well, what he wanted to do in order to lead community going through this process, he is now starting up his own business, making pizzas and employing homeless people. You get it? There's just simple things that have been part of his life that he can include in his context and passions, so that way he can lead community. Alicia, and then Lauren, she's important too. She started volunteering in Cleveland, Ohio, with a lot of immigrants that were coming into the country, and resourcing it and helping them. And she was doing it as a volunteer position. Next thing you know it, she is now the lead person that was helping with all the Afghan immigrants coming into the United States and providing them resources. And she's now has a job out of that. But like, again, she's identifying some of her passions, what her context is, so she can lead. Last story, Alicia and Will. They both joined 1,000 Leaders. Alicia's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't even know what I can do. And so she was going through the process with us and asking these same questions. And one thing that she learned was, being in Decatur, Illinois, there was one point, there was one of the highest infant mortality rates going on in Decatur than all other places in the state of Illinois. Apparently a lot of infants were passed away because parents weren't taking care of them. So she helped enable an emergency foster care group, and gathered around other stay-at-home moms to form a new group, so that way she is living out her passion, helping children, and she found other moms to be able to be a part of that. Again, that's her passions, that's her context. She can also lead. So the question is, maybe you thought you were coming into this room and we're just saying, how do I better connect with young adults, Gen Z, millennials? But the better question should be, how am I equipping and sending out some of these young leaders? All right, I know it's not easy. I know there's probably very few of us in your churches, but don't seize the opportunity that could be there. Don't take the time to actually understand the story or the people that they hang out with or where they regular with, because there's something that could be there. And you just never know what that could be. So I'm hopeful that maybe this sparks some imagination for you all. Maybe this could take some next steps. Certainly, we offer something that for young adults, so if you're connected to them and you want to send them our way, great. But at the end of the day, I know that you guys probably own some of those relationships, and that's awesome. And if there's a way to partner, great. If not, maybe these are some of the things that you can start processing with some of your young leaders. One thing that I wanted to share with you, we're always trying to figure out the metrics and understand what our leaders are experiencing going through the process. And this is what one person said: I feel 1,000 Young Leaders has helped me to see myself as both a missionary and a leader, and has given me the confidence to see myself the way that God sees me, unique, equipped, enough. I don't need a degree in theology to make a kingdom difference in my community. It's been the push needed to step out and try new things. If we just take the time and ask some of these questions, man, there's some younger generations that can make some serious kingdom impact for Jesus. And I hope that you know that. I hope that you guys can process through some of these things. If you have any questions, I'm here. I know we have 5 minutes left. So if you want to share any of those questions right now, go ahead. Yep.
You just mentioned metrics.
How do you as a leader for your organization determine your metrics in this style of ministry?
So we basically use a Google survey of probably about 30 different questions, where in that 10-month process, we ask them similar questions to really navigate their spiritual growth. If they feel equipped to disciple, lead community. I wish I had all the questions in front of me right now, but we basically measure those things 3 or 4 different times to really see where they're at in the process. The big thing that we're really trying to measure is their progress with one of the sheets that I shared with you, with the Start, Lead, and Multiply sheet, is are they accomplishing their 30-day goals, their 90-day goals, and then their year goal, and then are they thinking about multiplying after that? So we could talk more about that, but there's more to it. Yep. Any other thoughts, questions, takeaways? If you want some more tools, you can scan this PDF right here. This is one that we do a tool all on rest and work. And we share that with people. We've created something where people can start journaling down, and we know that people have very busy lives. And we really want to help leaders have a really healthy work-life balance. So if you're interested in that, I hope it's working.
It is.
Perfect. Sign up there. You can you just give us your email, I think just your email, and then it should send to you immediately through an email and an automatic web page, and you can receive that PDF. All right? So if you're interested in more things like that, we'll share those things with you. Thank you for being here. Oh, yeah. A question?
Yeah, my question was, I haven't been through anything PLI or anything of this nature.
Yep.
But I have a candidate or something that it might work for them. It might be something that they're right at a point when they'd be looking for something like this. Can I pass this on to them?
Yep, totally.
Is it something that, well, I need to know what's going on before I pass them on, or is it?
Yeah, so we'll have a conversation. We can talk about that. We have certain ways that you can also recommend someone, and we can contact them as well. There's all sorts of ways, but yeah, we can connect later on about that. So thanks. Any other thoughts, questions? I hope I get to see you guys around and just listen to some of your best practices. Thanks for just hearing some of the stuff that's been helpful for us, and I hope that it helps you guys. So thanks so much. All right.